you and welcome to this class called Maximizing the Stage, okay? So number one, I want you to understand that I want to, how humbling it is for you to all be here today to help me see this vision through. And again, this is like my inaugural event. You only get one first event, and you have made it a successful event. So my thing is, as I share with each one of you when we were talking individually, that I don't want this just to be an opportunity for you to speak to people, to say that you spoke on CHAMPIAM stage, okay? I am going to be somebody someday. I'm going to be great, and it's going to be great. It's nice to say you spoke on my stage. But, and again, the thing about it is my question to you is, what is it that you expect to get from this opportunity? And whenever you're speaking on stages like this, you have to have in your mindset, okay, I'm speaking on this stage. How is this opportunity going to position my brand to be better known? Most people that are speaking on this platform are not thinking about the business of speaking. Some people are just happy to be speaking, right? I don't want any of you just to be happy speakers. I want you to be able to grow your brand. I want to bring attention to your brand, right? That's the assignment. The purpose of being on this stage is not just for motivation. It's not just for you an opportunity to sell. It's not just for exposure. It's all the above. So I need you to think not just about the message itself, but the call. Every message has a call to action to it. Every message has a call to action to it. What is a call to action? A call to action is what you expect the result of this conversation to trigger. While you are presenting to them, you are speaking to them with an inspiration to inspire them through your education, inspire them through through your message to make a decision, and that decision is to connect to you. Every time you have the opportunity to speak, you're shining light to your platform. So you're like, some of you are like, I don't even know I had a platform. But every time you speak, you're shining light on that platform. I need you to be intentional. You must be intentional, because you are not only giving a message, you are showing a brand. And people will recognize your brand before you even walk into the room. That's how you want to get. That's what I want to see. People will recognize and trust your brand if you are consistent and intentional with your message. They're going to recognize you before you walk into the room. And that's a wonderful feeling. A wonderful feeling. And that's what I want you to do. So I want you to look at this opportunity as a business opportunity that's going to elevate your brand to attract more people to come into your funnel. Your funnel is how people come into your world. You know, everybody should have a funnel. I have people that have they say I've written books after books after books after books. I've written many books. And I'm like, what happened to the book? Well, after, 50 people bought it, I wrote another book. No, the plan of you writing the book, the purpose of you writing the book is for that people can see. One second, people are coming in. The purpose of you writing the book is for people to be introduced to you. So you have to have a call to action even when you're writing a book. What is the call to action after they read your book from cover to cover? What is that call to action? Do you have a mastermind? Do you have a next level workshop? Do you have something that you can lead them into? So let's talk about the different ways that you can present yourself and the different stages that you can talk on. So there's 3 different things I want you to focus on. There's paid to speak. meaning that you received an honorarium, you received a check, you're getting paid to speak on the platform. And many speakers just want to get to the paid. But there's a lot of steps that you got to get to get to the paid. I mean, where they're consistently paying you. Now, I get paid to speak, right? But again, that's not every day. So I have to be saying that if this is a viable business for me, I look for those paid to speak opportunities where I'm getting the check from them, but there's another opportunity that you're on right now, a pay to speak platform. And I listen, I've interviewed over 150 people already for this platform. And about 10% of them were like, well, I get paid to speak. I was like, how often do you get paid to speak? Well, I got Mayo Clinic. Well, when was the last time you had a paid speak? They can't tell you. But they want you to pay them. Well, that's okay if you're at a certain level where you can get paid, but don't discount paid to speak opportunities where you're paying to speak, because again, what you're doing is you're being intentional. You're being intentional about the platform that you're speaking on, because the purpose of you speaking on that platform is to actually expand your network. You know how many speaker platforms I paid to speak on, but because I paid to speak on those platforms, my network has expanded. The reason why my brand, CHAMPIAM, is known is because I was on different networks that I paid to speak on. And now when I walk into certain areas, you realize how small the speaking industry really is. And then people will say, hey, I know you, Champ, and I'm in another state. That can be you. But how are you going to do that unless you get in front of more people? You have a question?
No, I just wanted to say something in support of what you said, because he's absolutely right. I did a paying to speak, and it led to a very lucrative pay to speak. So it is that investment in yourself is paramount.
Yes.
That's it.
And it's great because I can't see everybody now. So if you want to come off of mute and ask something, just come off of mute and break it in. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking. But thank you, Bronte. And what happens is with that, people get the chance to see you. It was because of me being on those platforms that I had got a chance to speak for South Jersey Gas at one of their final pods. So again, there's a place for paid to speak. So knowing that, you should be budgeting in your market budget. Hopefully you have a marketing budget. But if you don't, you need to establish a marketing budget as a speaker and then make room for those paid to speak opportunities, right? And it's about, again, expanding that network. And again, a lot of my growth had came from those opportunities. A lot of the relationships that I have right here that are here were from some of those relationships. I would have never met some of these people that are on this screen today if I wasn't in these different groups. So it's an investment in yourself, but you have to be intentional. Again, it's so key. You have to be intentional. And then the last platform is the platform I hope each and every one of you do, is build your own platform. There is a value of building your own platform. And believe me, just the caregivers in the room, there is a platform for caregivers, right? You're like, well, who's going to really talk about it? Well, I didn't realize how many caregivers were out there until I started talking about it. And then how many male caregivers there are. We hear a lot of women talk about caregiving, but there were a lot of men that were caregivers. So these men and women need support. They need materials. They need information. So when you're building your own platform, you can do your own virtual conference the way I'm doing it right now, just off of caregiving and the bucket list and being able to get your life and live your life. I have a topic I was talking about that you have to learn how to be selfish as a caregiver, right? So there's plenty of different opportunities for you to build around your brand, but you got to be willing to have if you're going to bet on anybody, bet on you. So build your platform, and then you'll get even more speaking engagements because there's a certain thing that now your brand becomes known because you're building your platform and people recognize it and people want to connect with you on another level. And we'll talk about more about how, if you're interested in learning how to build your platform, it's not as hard as you think it is. So we have opportunities for you to learn that, and I'll share that a little bit later. So I'm on my third point. Third point is that you got to understand what you bring to the table and how you communicate it. Some of y'all are connected to me because y'all did your elevator pitch so great, and you said it in under a minute and you got it down. So when it comes to talking about your brand, how are you talking about your brand? Are you able to communicate your vision of what you speak on in a way that makes people want to hear you and buy from you? Okay? If you don't, I'm going to show you an easy way of doing it. It's also a great way to build your presentations. I design my presentations the 2 ways I'm going to show you, and this is one of them. I always ask these questions: who, what, why, how, where, and when. Write that down. Who, what, why, how, where, and when. I used to call this the elevator pitch till I heard one of my mentors, Myron Golden, talk about get rid of elevator pitches. So, but he basically said the same thing we're talking about right now. But, don't call it the elevator pitch, but it's still considered the elevator pitch right now, okay? Until I figure out what else to call it. But again, when you have a short amount of time to share with people, you need to be impactful on how you're sharing your brand. I remember I was at an LET, it was a leadership experience tour, and I was talking to speakers that were coming through, and they were saying, I would ask them, what are you speaking on? And I had a lady said, I speak on abuse. And I was like, oh. Okay. Because when you say things, it triggers a response. And she really couldn't drive. Once she got me into the abuse, I went into a downward spiral because there was no way I could put it into a positive light, because she was talking about experience. It was so heavy, it didn't make me want to connect. And I gave her some advice. I said, can you talk about surviving abuse and steps of empowering people to get out of those situations? Do you see the difference in how I just shared that from abuse and domestic violence to, hey, I'm going to teach you how to survive and thrive after abuseful situations? You want to connect with me, right? So you share those things, right? Divorce. I've been divorced. After a while, I've sat through so many different conferences where I felt horrible because they never took me out. They left me in the low and never gave me a cure. So again, make sure that you're able to vocalize that so people want to be able to attract themselves to your brand, okay? So who is, who are you? You got to be able to explain who you are. Who you are is not just your name, but it's saying, my name is CHAMPIAM, Chris Hampton, CHAMPIAM, and I am a leadership coach. I'm a mentor. These are the things that I deal with, right? I deal with positive leadership, whatever the topic that you're going to deal with, right? You need to be able to express who you are to the audience that you're talking to. Then you say, what do you do? What do you do? Right? So they need to know what you do, and you got to say it in a short period of time. You take me through a story, and you're 5 minutes into your presentation, and I still don't know what you're doing. Now, this is a virtual environment. This is not a live environment where the people are going to sit there and struggle through. If they leave, they have the ability to change the channel, right? So if they change the channel, you got to be able to catch their attention, tell them what they do so they know why they're listening to you. And that's what why is. Why is, why should we work with you? Why should we work with you? What makes you different? What makes you different than all the other financial advisors? What makes you different than all the addiction recovery? What makes you different from the other boring cyber people that I've been sitting there listening to, right? What makes you different? How is how you can help. You write that down, how you can help, right? I can help you through my seminars, through our master groups, through our one-to-one counseling sessions. I have, an accelerator group that we're doing, right? I'm going to show you how I can help you. Again, the purpose of everything is to lead them to a call to action so that it's so natural that they can just say yes, right? So you got to do this, and you have to steer and navigate through this intentionally. You have to be intentionally. You have to be so intentional because you've been down this road before. It's their first time, but you're just guiding them through the process. Once you get this down, it's so easy because you're just guiding them to the yes, if they're qualified, right? So we said who you are. Who are you? What do you do? Why should we work with you? What makes you different? How can you help me? Where can we connect with you? It's so amazing that we'll go through our story and we won't leave the email. Or we give an email that's so hard to write down that they can't remember it, okay? Make it short and sweet. Make it something that they can remember on their way home and they'll be able to put it in, right? Don't make it so long that it's an encyclopedia. We can't even spell encyclopedia, right? Don't make it so long. Make it short, sweet, and memorable. Where can they find you? And always have a when as a call to action. Right? When should they be making that decision? They should be making that decision now, while they're in front of you. Now, whether you realize it or not, I've been giving you selling 101 tips. That's the selling 101 tip right there that you have right now. If you do that right there, you're taking them on a journey through a call to action. And the reason why you start with selling is because if I said the word selling, you probably would have shut your mind off, right? So remember, every time you are in front of an audience, you are selling yourself. You are selling your products. You are selling yourself. You're like, I hate sales. If you are in business and you hate selling, you're not going to make any money. So let's start with why selling is not a bad thing. First of all, get that negative connotation of sales. When you think of selling something, you think of someone selling you Amway, someone selling you something that you don't want. You look at the car salesman from 1975 trying to put you in a car that you can't afford. You think about selling as a manipulation rather than a persuasion. But selling is nothing but you serving your clients, your future clients. Put selling and serving, and they're the same thing. When you look at selling and serving and you look at it the same thing, they blend together and become one. And you don't feel guilty for asking for a call to action because you're serving your client. And sometimes your client doesn't realize they actually need you. So you have to make your call to action come to life by letting them realize that they do need you. So selling is a cuss word. And to be honest with you, we all sell whether we realize it or not. We have some teachers in the room. Teachers, raise your hand. Retired teachers, teachers. Whether you realize it or not, the 20 or 30 years you were teaching, you were selling. And the teacher that could not keep the kids' attention were bad at selling. You're selling when you offer your goods and services at your job interview. You don't realize it, you don't see it, but what you're doing is you're negotiating what you're bringing to your employer. And you're settling for a time limit and how much you're getting paid for your time. But you're selling yourself. Well, everybody else got $10, but you were able to get 15, right? Because you were able to sell yourself intentionally. We do it whether we realize it or not. So let's do it intentionally. Also, when you understand that selling is educating, You're serving and you're educating people about how they can get from one place to another. So even though we're not all educators as teachers, when we hit the stage, we are educators when it comes to our area of expertise. And we are serving through it giving the proper information. When you do that, does it change your view of selling a little bit? When I was a life insurance agent, I didn't look at myself as a salesperson. I looked at someone who was educating clients about their life needs and how to leave a legacy for the people that they leave behind. And a lot of times, the people I was selling life insurance to didn't know that they needed it. Everybody needs life insurance, but you'd be surprised. Everybody doesn't think they need it. But by the time they got finished with me, I educated them enough that they can do what? Make a decision on their own. Is this helpful? Good, good, good. I just want to make sure I'm on the right place, in the right place.
I think the information is very helpful. When I just did a group lecture before I jumped on, and one of the things is getting them to buy in that this product that I'm selling, life, is going to be beneficial in making those solutions, those suggestions in solution-oriented conversation.
I love it. And what I'm going to share with you next is going to show you how to do that without making them think that they're getting a sales conversation. Because the moment that you put out that there's a price tag or there's an expectation of price, people automatically put their guards back up. So now we're going to talk about the pathway. I'm going to talk about the pathway to creating your signature talk. But I'm going to do it in a way that's going to make it easy for them to respond to your call to action.